should have said no. That was my first thought when I stood in front of dorm room 3B, clutching a too-heavy suitcase and trying not to let my omega scent spike with anxiety. A new school, a new room, a new roommate, and not just any roommate. Ren Takahashi. I hadn't seen him since middle school, since he transferred out mid-year without a word. Back then, I'd been just the quiet Omega kid who always watched him from behind library bookshelves or across the soccer field, heart hammering whenever he smiled. I thought I'd gotten over it. But the moment the dorm door creaked open and I saw him again, barefoot, messy-haired, towel slung over his shoulder, alpha scent hitting me like cedar and rain, I knew I hadn't. "You're late," he said, eyeing my suitcase with those dark alpha eyes. "I missed the first train," I mumbled, already feeling my omega instincts trying to submit. He stepped aside, letting me in without another word. The room smelled like peppermint and laundry detergent. Clean, but lived in. Alpha territory. One side was clearly his, perfectly folded clothes, plants on the windowsill, a black guitar leaning against the wall. The other side was empty. I hesitated near the bed. "So, where should I—" He glanced at me, then at the floor. "Yeah, about that. There's only one bed." I blinked. "What?" "The room's small. They only put one in. Housing screw-up." He shrugged. "You can take it. I don't care." I looked at the bed. It wasn't small. It was worse. It was a queen. Big enough for two. My cheeks warmed instantly. "I'll sleep on the floor." Ren raised an eyebrow. "No, you won't." "I will. It's fine. I've slept on worse." He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Alpha authority radiating off him. "You'll catch a cold. Or worse. The floor creaks. You'll wake me up every time you move. Just sleep in the bed." My eyes widened. "With you?" "For safety," he said deadpan. "Dorm ghost. Haven't you heard?" I stared. He smirked. "Relax. I don't bite. Unless you snore, then I might smother you with a pillow." Very reassuring. I ended up sleeping in the bed. Correction. I tried to sleep. I lay stiffly on the edge, my omega instincts screaming to get closer to the alpha scent, but my brain telling me to stay put. Heart racing, trying not to breathe too loudly. Ren was on the other side, already under the covers, back turned. The gap between us might as well have been the Pacific Ocean. After 30 minutes, he shifted, then again. Then his arm flopped across my waist. I froze completely. His face was near mine now, soft in sleep, hair falling across his forehead. Alpha scent wrapping around me like a blanket. And then he whispered, "Kay." My heart dropped. Not my name. His fingers twitched against my hoodie, and I realized he was dreaming. I held my breath, afraid to move. Who was Kay? A friend, an ex, another Omega. The next morning I woke up with his legs tangled around mine and his hands still curled against my shirt like I might disappear. I didn't say anything. He didn't either. But from that moment on, every night it was the same thing. Same bed, same silence, same arm sliding around me halfway through the night like it belonged there. It was weird. And worse, my Omega kind of liked it. The second week I tried sleeping on the floor again. I even made a little nest of blankets. At 2 a.m. he woke up, dragged the blanket off me and stared. "Are you stupid?" he said. "I just thought, it's freezing, you'll die, and your Omega scent's all wrong when you're uncomfortable." That's dramatic. So am I. Get back in bed. He didn't move until I did. I crawled under the blanket, grumbling, and he turned his back to me dramatically. "I'm only doing this for your safety," he muttered. "Sure," I said. "Safety from the cold or the dorm ghost?" He didn't answer, but I swear I heard him laugh. School was chaotic. Everyone seemed to know Ren. Omegas from across campus wrote him love notes. Alphas either admired him or avoided him. Some whispered when they saw us together, and more than once someone warned me. "Don't get too close," one beta guy muttered near the vending machine. "Ren's not what he seems." "Yeah," another said. "His last roommate transferred out in 2 weeks. Said he couldn't sleep. Why? No one knows. Just be careful." I tried asking Ren about it once. He looked up from his textbook and said, "People like rumors. It makes them feel interesting." "Is it true?" He shrugged. "Does it matter?" I dropped it. But I started noticing things. How he always checked the locks twice. How he never let me leave the window open at night. How he kept glancing at my side of the bed, like checking if I was still breathing. One night, I woke up and saw him sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. "Ren?" I whispered. He didn't move. I reached out. "Hey, are you okay?" He turned slowly. His eyes looked lost. "You were gone," he said softly. "I'm right here." He blinked. "Yeah, right." Then he lay back down and pulled the blanket up like nothing happened. But I felt him scent the air, making sure I was really there. Despite all of it, we got close. Sort of. He taught me how to use the laundry machine without flooding the hallway. I taught him how to cook cup ramen without burning the noodles. He kept stealing my socks. I kept borrowing his hoodie. He was annoyingly attractive in the mornings, messy hair, sleepy alpha voice, always stealing my side of the bed. I started pretending to be annoyed when he accidentally scent-marked me by standing too close. He started pretending not to notice when I nested with his shirts. It was like a game, one we didn't name, one we didn't stop, until the day I found the drawer. So I wasn't trying to snoop. I dropped a pen and it rolled under his bed. While reaching for it, I noticed a small drawer. Locked. I tried the handle. Didn't budge. That night when he came back from practice, he noticed I was quiet. "You look guilty," he said. "I dropped my pen." "Okay." "Under your bed." He paused. "There's a drawer. What's in it?" Silence. Then, "Nothing you need to see." "Why is it locked?" He turned away, jaw tense. "Because I locked it." I should have let it go. But at 2 a.m., curiosity won. I waited until I heard him breathing softly, then carefully slipped out of bed. Used a bobby pin. "Thank you, YouTube." Click. Open. Inside was a single photo. Ren with another boy. Black hair, sharp smile, arm around Ren's shoulders. There was something written on the back, smudged by time. Couldn't read it. But what chilled me wasn't the words. It was the red stain on the corner, like dried blood. A floorboard creaked behind me. I turned. Ren stood in the doorway, backlit by moonlight, eyes dark. Alpha presence suddenly overwhelming. "You looked where you shouldn't have," he said quietly. I held the photo like it burned. "I'm sorry." He took a step forward. "Go back to bed, Yuki." "Ren, now." I went. He didn't follow for a long time, and when he did, he didn't speak. But I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared of him, but because I finally realized there was a part of Ren I didn't know at all, and maybe I wanted to know everything, even the dangerous parts. Ren didn't talk to me the next morning. Not a glare, not a word, just silence, thick and heavy like rain clouds right before a storm. He got dressed. He tossed his gym bag over his shoulder and left with nothing but the soft slam of the door. I sat on the edge of the bed, still holding the image of that photo in my mind. That boy beside Ren. His smile was sharp and bright, but his eyes were unreadable. They looked familiar. Not because I'd seen him before, but because there was something in them, a feeling I knew too well, something like falling. I hadn't meant to invade his privacy, but something about that photo, the lock, the whisper in his sleep, the way he checked on me every night, it all felt tangled, like puzzle pieces that didn't quite fit. When Ren came back in the evening, he dropped his bag, walked past me, then turned sharply. "New rule," he said without looking up. "No touching my stuff. Ever." I swallowed. "Okay." He kicked off his shoes. "Second rule. Ida, you sleep in the bed. No more floor stunts. But, for safety," he said again. But this time his voice was flatter. Alpha command underneath. "Your Omega needs proper rest." I nodded. "And the last rule," he muttered, tugging his hoodie off. "Don't ask about the past. Mine or yours?" "Why mine?" His gaze flicked to me finally. "Because if you ask me things, I'll ask you things. And I don't think you want that." I didn't have a reply. Instead, I stood there awkwardly, while he turned the TV on and sat cross-legged on the bed like nothing had happened. And then, just as casually, he patted the spot beside him. "Come watch," he said. "You owe me for breaking into my drawer." It wasn't forgiveness, but maybe it was close enough. We watched a dumb cooking show, and Ren kept mocking the contestants, and doing dramatic voiceovers in a British accent. I tried not to laugh. Failed. He threw a pillow at me. I threw it back. We didn't talk about the photo. But that night, as we lay in the dark, I turned to him just slightly. "Who's Kay?" His breath hitched for half a second. "You broke Rule 3. I just wanted to know if he's the one in the photo." A long pause. Then in a voice so soft it almost didn't reach me, he said, "No, that's not Kay." I waited for more, but it never came. Instead, he whispered, "Good night, Yuki." And for the first time in days, I slept before he did. The next day at school, people stared more than usual. Tomo, Ren's best friend, grumpy, sharp-tongued, always half asleep in math class, cornered me during lunch. "You're still alive," he said, like it was shocking. I blinked. Ah yeah?" He looked me up and down like he was checking for bite marks. He's never shared his bed with anyone. Not even me. And I've known him since we were 6. "It's not like that," I said quickly. Tomo raised an eyebrow. "Isn't it?" "It's just because of the dorm ghost." Tomo actually laughed. "He used that line on you too?" I froze. "Wait, he's lying?" "Oh no. The ghost's real, but it only bothers people who leave their laundry in the washer too long." I wanted to sink into the ground. Tomo leaned closer. "Listen, Ren's complicated. Messed up in ways he doesn't talk about. If you're going to stay close, be ready for all of it. Not just the pretty parts." I looked down at my sandwich. "I'm already in," I said before I could stop myself. He smiled like he knew something I didn't. "Then don't break his heart. He won't show it, but he'll feel it." That night I was determined to act normal. I flopped dramatically onto the bed after brushing my teeth, pretending to take up the whole thing. "No room for you," I declared, spreading my arms like a starfish. Ren stared, towel still on his head. "You're literally half my size." "Doesn't mean I can't defend my territory." He smirked. "You want to start a war?" I nodded. "Serious? This bed isn't big enough for 2 kings." He yanked the blanket. I shrieked. It became a full-blown wrestling match. He pinned me down with one arm while I flailed like a noodle, both of us laughing like we were kids again. When he finally let go, we lay there out of breath, our shoulders brushing. "You're not scared of me?" he asked suddenly. I turned my head. "Should I be? People usually are. I'm not people." He looked at me, and for a second something unspoken passed between us. "Good," he said. 2 days later I found out he talks in his sleep. Like a lot. Sometimes it's mumbling. Other times it's weird dreams. Once he muttered something about mayonnaise being evil. Another time he called me Princess Starfish, which I have not let him forget. But then one night he said something different. "I couldn't save him," he whispered, almost crying. I reached out without thinking, touching his wrist. "Ren." His eyes fluttered open, unfocused, then suddenly wide. He jerked away like I burned him. "Don't," he said sharply. "Don't touch me when I'm asleep." I nodded, heart thudding. "Sorry, you were having a nightmare." "I always do." He sat up, facing the window. Moonlight cut across his profile, beautiful and broken. "Ren, what happened with him?" I asked softly. His shoulders tensed. "Rule 3, remember?" "I just want to understand." "You don't need to." "But I want to." He turned. "Why?" I didn't have an answer that wouldn't make me sound hopelessly gone for him. So I just said, "Because you let me sleep beside you. That means something, right?" His eyes flicked down, then back up. "Maybe," he said, then added, almost too quiet to hear. "I'm just trying not to lose another person." Before I could reply, he got back under the blanket, facing away again. And somehow, even in silence, I felt closer to him than I ever had before. At school the next week, something changed. Ren walked beside me more. He started calling me out in class for dozing off, but with a smile. He told someone to back off when they bumped into me in the hallway. He even handed me his extra umbrella when it started raining after PE. "You'll catch a cold," he said. "What about you?" "I like the rain," he said, turning up his hoodie. Liar. He hated getting his hair wet. But he walked off anyway, alpha scent mixing with rain. That night I waited for him in bed, pretending to be asleep. When he came in dripping wet, he didn't make a sound. Just slipped under the blanket carefully, like trying not to wake me. I felt his fingers graze mine under the covers. Not accidental this time. I squeezed his hand, and this time he didn't let go. Our room had started to feel like a world of its own. A place outside of school, rumors and whatever haunted Ren's past. A strange world where I woke up with his head against my shoulder one morning, and instead of freaking out, I just stayed still and memorized how soft his hair was. Things were calmer between us, no weird rules, no yelling, but the silence wasn't gone. It had only changed. It had turned into this soft thing, quiet laughs during late-night cup ramen, the sound of his pencil tapping while I did homework, or the way he'd hum songs when he thought I was asleep. And yet, every time I tried to ask about the boy in the photo or even Kay, he shut down, not angry, just gone. Like a switch flipped and the walls went up. So I stopped asking. Mostly. Ren started doing this thing where he'd toss random questions at me while we were lying in bed, staring at the ceiling like it held the answers to the universe. "What would you do if you weren't here?" he asked one night, voice low. I blinked. "You mean, like, if I didn't transfer?" "Yeah." I rolled onto my side to look at him. "Probably still be invisible at my old school." He glanced at me. "You're not invisible here." "You say that like you see me." He smirked. "I do." I didn't sleep for hours after that. It was a Friday when the first real crack showed. We were in class when Ren was called out to the office. He didn't say much, just shrugged, stood up and left. But when he came back, his entire expression had changed. That casual confidence was gone. He looked pale, like someone had turned off his light from the inside. After class, I followed him back to the dorm. He didn't wait for me like usual. Just went straight to the room and slammed the door behind him. I hesitated. I then opened it. He was sitting on the floor beside the bed, head leaning back against the wall. "Ren? They're opening the old dorm building again," he said suddenly. "Starting next week, room 4C. I didn't get it at first. "Okay?" That was my old room. Mine and his. I froze. He didn't say the name. He never did. He looked up at me, eyes tired. "The school says it's been long enough. They're renovating it, moving people in like it's just another room." "I'm sorry." He laughed, but it was humorless. "What does sorry even mean? It doesn't bring people back." I sat beside him, close but not touching. "You never told me what happened," I said quietly. "I can't." "Why?" He looked at me, and for the first time he looked scared. "Because if I say it out loud, it'll feel real again." I didn't push. And we sat there side by side on the floor, the clock ticking loud in the silence. Then so softly I almost didn't hear him, he said, I woke up and he was gone. My chest tightened. "They said it was an accident," he continued. "That he probably slipped, hit his head, drowned in the pool." His voice cracked. "But I know. I know he wasn't okay before." He stopped sleeping. He started saying weird things. "I should have seen it coming. Ren, it's not your fault." He didn't answer. That night he didn't touch me. Didn't roll over in his sleep. The distance between us felt like a canyon. I hated it. The next morning I brought him coffee from the vending machine. He took it without a word, but sipped it slowly. "You look like a kicked puppy," he muttered. "You look like a grumpy alpha." He snorted. "Takes one to know one." I nudged his shoulder. "Let's do something dumb." "Like what?" "I don't know. Build a pillow fort. Pretend we're 5. Tempting. We actually did it. Piled up all the pillows and blankets and crawled inside, facing each other with flashlights and snacks like we were at a sleepover. Ren looked more relaxed than he had in days. "You're weird," he said. "You share a bed with me every night." "Touché." We laughed and it felt normal again. Until I reached into the snack bag and pulled out his phone by accident. The screen lit up. A message preview. Unknown number. K was my brother. "I want to talk." I stared at it. My hand froze. Ren noticed. His eyes darkened. "Give me that." "Ren, give it." I handed it over. He read the message, locked the phone, and tossed it aside. He didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he looked up at me. "It's starting again." "What is?" "The past." And just like that, our tiny, safe world felt smaller. Later that night, I caught him standing at the window. He didn't know I was watching. His reflection looked tired, even in the moonlight. I walked up behind him. "You don't have to do it alone, you know." He didn't turn around. "I'm not used to people staying." "Well, I'm not people." He glanced at me over his shoulder. "No," he said softly. "You're not." We stood there for a while, side by side. No words, just quiet understanding. When we finally climbed into bed, I thought he'd roll away again. But instead he reached over and pulled me close. Closer than ever. His voice was barely audible. "Thanks for not running." I didn't say anything. I just tucked my head into his chest and held on. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But tonight, I wasn't letting go. Rain had a way of making everything feel heavier. It had been pouring since morning. The kind of endless soaking rain that made even the air feel like it was holding its breath. By the time classes ended, I was already soaked from running across the courtyard. My socks squished in my shoes. My umbrella had flipped inside out. And to make it worse, I found our dorm room locked. I knocked once, then again. No answer. "Ren?" I called, already dripping. Still nothing. Just when I was about to give up and go camp out in the hallway like a lost puppy, the door cracked open. Ren stood there, towel around his neck, hair damp, a fair-off look in his eyes. "You okay?" I asked, stepping in. He didn't answer. I just turned and walked back to his desk, dropping into the chair like gravity hit him harder than it should have. Did something happen? He shrugged. I'm fine. He wasn't. I could tell. The room felt colder than usual, and not because of the weather. He hadn't even turned on the heater. I took off my soaked hoodie and started drying my hair with the extra towel on the bed. You skipped class. I had a headache, he said. You hate missing classes. Guess I'm full of surprises. His tone wasn't sharp, but it wasn't soft either. I watched him. His shoulders hunched slightly, his fingers tapping a rhythm against the desk, something he only did when he was trying to distract himself from overthinking. Is this about the message? I asked gently. Kay's brother messaged you again. Didn't he? Ren stood up so fast the chair scraped back. Why do you always have to know everything? I blinked. I'm not trying to... You always ask. Always look at me like I'm some broken thing you need to fix. That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing here, Yuki? He asked, voice rising. Alpha dominance bleeding through. Why do you stay? Why do you keep sleeping next to someone who can't even close his eyes without dreaming about a dead boy? That one hit like a punch. I don't want to fix you, Ren, I said quietly. I just want you to stop pretending you're fine when you're clearly falling apart. He looked at me then. Really looked. A sharp, searching hurt. And then he said something I didn't expect. Maybe I don't want you to stay. The room went silent. Even the rain outside seemed to pause. Do you mean that? I asked, throat tight. He didn't answer. That was worse than a yes. I grabbed my bag. Fine. If you want space, take it. I walked out before he could say anything else. The hallway lights flickered above me. Everything felt too loud. My footsteps, the rain on the windows, my own breathing. I ended up in the library. It was warm and quiet. The lights dimmed for evening. I curled up in the corner with a blanket someone had left behind, still wearing my wet socks, phone buzzing with unread messages. I didn't open them, not until the next morning when I woke up to a stiff neck and 20 missed calls, all from Ren. When I returned to the dorm, the door was unlocked. Inside, it looked like a storm had passed through. Drawers open, papers on the floor. The desk chair knocked over. But the worst part, Ren wasn't there. His phone was on the bed. So was my hoodie. And on the nightstand was a sticky note in his messy handwriting. I'm sorry. I just needed to clear my head. Don't go anywhere. I stared at it for a full minute before grabbing my shoes and running. I didn't even know where I was going until my legs took me to the rooftop. And there he was. Ren, standing at the edge, wind tugging at his hoodie, rain drizzling softly now, like the sky had calmed down. He turned when he heard me. You came back, he said. Obviously. He looked down like he didn't deserve it. I said too much. You always do. That made him smile, just a little. I walked closer, keeping my eyes on him. I'm not going anywhere, Ren. Even if you yell. Even if you act like an idiot. Even if you keep dragging around your past like a backpack full of bricks. He glanced at me. That's dramatic. I learned from the best. This time the smile lasted longer. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to let someone stay. You don't have to know everything. I stepped beside him, close enough to feel the chill of his skin. You just have to try. Ren didn't say anything, but his hand found mine. And for the first time in days, we stood still. No drama, no ghost, just us. That night he let me hold him. No jokes, no teasing. He curled into me like he was afraid I'd vanish. Fingers twisted in my shirt like anchors. You're the first person I've let this close, he whispered. Then you better get used to it. He buried his face in my chest and mumbled, Greedy, you like it. And the truth? He did. He just didn't know how to say it yet. When I walked into the dorm room Monday morning, someone else was already inside. He was leaning against my desk like he owned the place, twirling a pencil between his fingers and humming a tune I vaguely recognized. His uniform was too crisp, his hair too perfect, like he'd stepped out of a drama set. He looked up when I froze in the doorway and grinned like he'd been waiting hours just to annoy me. Yuki! My stomach dropped. Kazuki! Surprise! He said, holding out his arms. Miss me? Of all the people I expected to see again, my childhood friend ranked at the bottom of the list. I hadn't seen him since middle school, since the day he moved away without saying goodbye, and now he was in my dorm, acting like no time had passed. What are you doing here? I asked, still stunned. I transferred in. This morning. He gestured around the room with an exaggerated flourish. And guess what? They put me here. I blinked. In this room? He nodded, then tilted his head toward the bed. Bunking up with you and your very tall, very silent alpha roommate. Speaking of, where is he? Before I could answer, the door swung open behind me. Ren stepped in, hoodie half zipped, earbuds dangling from his neck. He froze the second he saw Kazuki. Kazuki straightened. You must be Ren. Ren's expression didn't change. And you are? I'm Kazuki. Childhood bestie, he said, flashing a grin. New third wheel. Ren looked at me. I looked at the floor. The tension in the room could have sliced the air in half, and Kazuki, of course, was loving every second of it. By evening, the room felt too small. Kazuki had already claimed the desk chair, scattered his books across my side of the floor, and was now flipping through my manga with casual arrogance. You're still into these? He asked, smirking. I thought you'd have outgrown them. I like them, I muttered. Ren was lying on the bed reading, but I could feel his eyes flicking toward us every few minutes. Alpha possessiveness humming beneath the surface. Kazuki leaned closer. You know, I thought you'd be different by now. And I thought you'd stop being a jerk by now, I said sweetly. He chuckled. There he is. I missed that spark. Ren slammed his book shut. You two should go flirt somewhere else. I turned bright red. We're not flirting. Kazuki leaned back. A little competition never hurt anyone. Ren sat up slowly. Alpha eyes sharp. You're not competition. Kazuki raised an eyebrow. You sure? You looked pretty rattled earlier. I'm just annoyed that someone like you thinks he can show up and take over. I jumped in. Okay, maybe we don't turn this into a territorial match over who gets to mock me first. But it was too late. The air was already buzzing with alpha dominance. That night, Kazuki sprawled across the floor on a sleeping bag like he belonged there. Ren and I climbed into bed, and for the first time in weeks there was a gap between us. Neither of us said anything, but the silence felt different now. Sharper, uneasy. The next day at school, Kazuki stuck to my side like glue. He joined me for lunch, poked at my tray like it was a science experiment, and even walked me to class. Ren doesn't talk much, does he? Kazuki asked. He does. Just not to people he doesn't trust. Kazuki hummed. And you trust him? I hesitated. Yeah, I do. He looked at me then. Really looked. Even after what happened. I froze. You know? He nodded slowly. I heard rumors, and I asked around. My heart stopped. Kay was my brother. The world tilted. What? Kazuki shoved his hands in his pockets. We didn't share a last name, so no one connected us. But yeah, he was my half-brother. I couldn't breathe. I didn't come here just to reconnect with you, Yuki, he said softly. I came to find out what happened to him, and why Ren was the last person to see him alive. That night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed beside Ren, who seemed calmer than I was. One arm tossed lazily behind his head like he had no idea the ground was crumbling under us. I need to ask you something, I whispered. He turned his head toward me, barely visible in the dim light. Yeah? Did you know Kazuki and Kay were related? His expression didn't change. Yeah. For how long? A while? You didn't tell me. You didn't ask. I stared at him, heart pounding. Is that why you're acting like nothing matters now? Because you already knew this would blow up? He turned on his side to face me. No. I'm acting like this because I've already lost someone once. I don't plan on doing it again. His hand reached out, resting over mine beneath the blanket. You trust me, right? I want to, I whispered. Then believe me when I say I never meant for Kay to die. I looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time I saw something in his eyes that wasn't anger or coldness or teasing. I saw guilt and pain and something else too. Something softer. Fear. The next morning Kazuki caught me outside the dorm. We need to talk, he said, holding out an old letter. Kay wrote this before he died. I think it's time you read it. My fingers trembled as I took it. Inside the envelope was a short note. If I go through with this, it's not Ren's fault. Don't let anyone blame him. He tried. He really tried. But some pain isn't fixable. My knees almost gave out. Kazuki caught me. I wanted to hate him, Kazuki said quietly. I came here planning to. But after reading that, he looked away. I don't know what to feel. He loved him, I whispered. And now he's trying to move on. Kazuki looked at me for a long second. Are you going to help him do that? I nodded. Yes. I'm going to stay. Ren was already awake when I got back to the dorm. He was sitting at the edge of the bed, one sock on, the other dangling from his hand like he'd forgotten what he was doing. His gaze met mine the second I stepped inside. I could tell by the way his shoulders stiffened that he knew. "You saw the letter," he said quietly. I nodded. Kazuki showed me. Silence stretched between us. Not awkward, but heavy, like both of us were standing on opposite sides of something we couldn't quite name. He let out a breath. I tried to stop him. I didn't see it coming until it was too late. I thought I was helping. Thought just being there would be enough. I stepped closer. "You did more than most would have." Ren's voice wavered. Just barely. "He asked me to stay up with him that night. I was tired. I said we'd talk in the morning." His hands clenched the fabric of the blanket. "I woke up and he was gone." I sat beside him. "You're not the reason he left, Ren. He said it himself." I looked down at our hands, both of them resting on the edge of the bed, not quite touching. Then I reached over and laced my fingers with his. He didn't pull away. "You're allowed to feel broken," I said, "but you're not allowed to carry all of it alone." He laughed, but it sounded tired. "Why do you say things like that?" "Because you never say them first." That made him glance at me, and in his eyes was something raw and unguarded, like he dropped every defense for 1 second and let me see the whole truth. "I don't know what this is," he admitted. "Me neither. But I think about you a lot, even when I don't want to. Even when it's easier not to." I smiled. "I think that's kind of the point." He looked at our joined hands and didn't say anything more, but he didn't let go. That night Kazuki was quieter than usual. He didn't joke, didn't smirk, just sat on the floor with his back to the wall, headphones in, eyes distant. I handed him a drink and sat beside him. "Thanks," he murmured. "You okay?" He shrugged. "I thought I'd feel better after giving you that letter. Closure or whatever." He looked at me, his expression more serious than I'd ever seen, and I realized I don't have any right to stand in the way. "You never did." He laughed softly. "Still hurts, though." I bumped his shoulder with mine. "You'll find someone better than both of us." He gave me a small, crooked smile. "I don't want someone better. I just wanted someone to stay." "You deserve that." He nodded, slow and tired. So does he. He didn't need to say Ren's name. I already knew. Ren didn't sleep much that week. Not because of nightmares this time, but because he was thinking. I could tell. He'd stare at the ceiling like it owed him answers. Eyes wide and unblinking. He'd fiddle with his phone, scroll through music, then close it without playing anything. Eventually, I rolled over and poked his side. "Hey, You're doing it again." "Doing what?" "Thinking so loudly I can't sleep." He turned his head. "Sorry. You know what would help?" "What?" "Talking, like normal people do." He hesitated. "Define normal." I smiled. "Okay, like us people." He rolled onto his side, propped his head up with his hand. "Can I ask you something kind of stupid?" "Only if I can give a kind of stupid answer." He stared at me for a beat. "Why do you stay? Even after everything?" "Because I like how quiet it feels when I'm next to you," I said. "Even if you never say anything, it's the safest quiet I've ever known." He blinked, just once, and then quietly. "I like you." I stared then. "Was that your kind of stupid question?" He chuckled. "Maybe." I shifted closer, heart pounding. "Well, I kind of like you too. Kind of a lot." His hand found mine again. Every time it felt new. "I don't know how to do this right," he said. Eyes soft. "You don't have to be perfect," I replied. "You just have to be here." He was. He always had been. In his own flawed, silent way. And I wasn't going anywhere. A few days later, Kazuki left our room. Transfer request approved. We helped him carry his bags down the hall. He didn't make it a big thing, just gave me a side hug and a nod at Ren. "Take care of each other," he said. Ren nodded. "You too." Kazuki walked away without looking back. When we got back to the room, it felt bigger, emptier, quieter. Ren collapsed on the bed, arms flung out. "Thank God, he talked in his sleep." "He sang in his sleep," I corrected, laughing. Ren reached up and tugged me down onto the mattress beside him. "You're not allowed to leave like that." "Like what?" "Without warning." "I wasn't planning to." "Good," he said, "because I'd just chase after you." I didn't answer right away. I was too busy smiling into the crook of his neck. He pulled the blanket over both of us and whispered, "This still counts as sleeping for safety. By the way." I nudged him. "Liar." He smirked. "You love it." And honestly, I did. We were almost normal now. Well, as normal as two boys secretly sharing a bed in a too small dorm room with a history too heavy could be. Ren started doing this thing where he'd wait for me outside class, casually leaning against the wall like he wasn't trying to look cool. He'd walk me to the cafeteria, nudge my tray when I picked the same curry rice again, and steal the cherry from my fruit cup without asking. It was subtle, quiet affection, nothing dramatic, no big confessions. But in the small gestures, the way he'd fix the hood on my jacket or how he'd kick my foot under the table just to make me look at him, I saw it. He cared, maybe even more than he knew how to show. But love, I learned, doesn't cancel out hurt. It just makes it harder when things start to fall apart. It started on a Tuesday, rain again, always the rain. I was late to our dorm after club practice. Ren wasn't in the room, but something was off. His pillow was missing. His side of the bed stripped bare. No blanket, no hoodie, nothing. I called his name, no answer. Then I saw it. He'd moved his things. Not out of the room, but to the floor. His blanket was in the corner next to his duffel, folded neatly like he planned to sleep there. I stood frozen in the doorway. Ren? He came in a second later, soaked and quiet, dropped his phone on the desk and didn't even look at me. You moved, I said. Yeah? Why? He grabbed a towel from his drawer. Felt like it. You said I couldn't sleep on the floor, but now you're... It's different. How? He looked up then. I'm tired and guarded. Because I don't trust myself anymore. My heart twisted. What are you talking about? Ren ran a hand through his hair. You've seen everything, every part of me, and I still don't know if I deserve to be this close to you. I stepped forward. Ren, I want you close. He shook his head. You don't get it. Kay trusted me. He leaned on me, and I let him fall. That wasn't your fault. But it feels like it, he snapped, voice cracking. I swallowed hard. So what? You punish yourself by pushing people away. Is that supposed to help? He laughed bitterly. It's better than pretending I'm someone I'm not. I couldn't take it anymore. I crossed the room and grabbed his hand. You're not perfect. You're not even easy to love. But I chose you, Ren. I chose to stay. Don't take that away from me. He looked at me. Eyes red-rimmed. Expression raw. Then tell me you're not scared of me, he whispered. I'm not. Tell me you're not waiting for me to break again. I stepped closer, cupping his face. I'm not waiting for you to break. I'm waiting for you to finally believe someone loves you enough to stay. His eyes fluttered shut. Then softly, I'm scared I'll hurt you. You already have, I said, honest and gentle. But I'd still rather hurt beside you than be safe without you. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. And in that moment, the space between us disappeared. Later that night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps. I turned, heart quickening. Ren wasn't in bed. I sat up. The blankets beside me were still warm. I looked around, empty. Then I saw the door, slightly open. Panic shot through me. I raced down the hallway barefoot, not caring who saw. Something inside me knew. He wasn't sleepwalking to the kitchen or the lounge. There was only one place he went when the ghosts got too loud. The pool. I ran faster. By the time I reached the side door that led to the courtyard, I spotted him. Standing by the edge of the water, arms wrapped around himself. Staring at the surface like it might offer answers if he looked long enough. Ren! I shouted. He turned, startled. Don't, I said, breathless, voice shaking. Don't go near it. I wasn't going to jump, he said, but his voice wasn't convincing. I walked up to him slowly. Then what were you doing? I don't know, he whispered. I just wanted to feel close to him, and this is where they found him. Maybe if I stood here long enough, I'd understand why. I stood in front of him. You won't. He looked at me, eyes filled with all the things he never said. Why can't I let go? Because you never gave yourself permission. He closed his eyes. Then tell me how. I wrapped my arms around him, resting my head against his chest. Start with coming back inside and sleep next to someone who still sees the good in you. He didn't answer, but his arms came around me, like they were meant to be there. When we got back, he climbed into bed before me. No hesitation this time. I joined him and he immediately pulled me in, head tucked under my chin, hand resting over my heart like he was trying to feel every beat. I'm sorry, he whispered. I know. He shifted closer. I think I'm in love with you. I didn't speak. I didn't have to. Because my arms tightened around him and his next breath shook, and in the quiet that followed, I knew we were finally facing the same direction. It felt different waking up next to him this time, not like an accident, not like a mistake, not something we'd avoid talking about later. Ren was still asleep, arms slung over my waist, his face half buried in the pillow. The light from the window spilled across the room, catching in the strands of his hair. He looked peaceful, like the weight he'd carried for so long had finally slipped off his shoulders sometime during the night. I wanted to let him sleep forever, but of course his first words when he stirred were, "You're staring." "Maybe," I said, pretending to roll my eyes. "Kinda creepy. Kind of worth it." He smirked without opening his eyes. "You're getting bolder. You started it." He blinked slowly, waking up, voice still rough with sleep. "Yeah, well, I told you. I think I'm in love with you." "Think?" I raised an eyebrow. He reached up, brushing a hand through my hair. "Fine. I am." "Good," I said, lips twitching. "Because you're stuck with me." He pulled the blanket over both of us again. Can't say I mind. That morning the mood in the room had shifted. Everything felt lighter, as if someone had turned the gravity down a bit. Ren actually hummed while brushing his teeth, and I caught myself smiling like an idiot while watching him argue with the kettle because it wouldn't boil fast enough. "Okay," he said over his shoulder. "We need to rearrange the room." "Why?" "Because it still feels like a dorm room, and now it's our room." I blinked. "That was the cheesiest thing you've ever said." "Yeah, well, deal with it." We spent the afternoon moving things around. He let me put up my posters. I let him take over the windowsill with his plants. We took turns picking which things stayed and which things we boxed up, like the cracked mug Ren had kept for aesthetic or my broken lamp that only worked when you kicked it twice. At one point we found a box I didn't recognize. Inside were the last few things Ren had saved from the past. A necklace, a dried flower, a photo, one I hadn't seen before. Him and Kay, smiling. Ren picked it up, quiet for a second. Then he put it down gently in the box and closed the lid. "I think it's okay to let this go now," he said. I touched his hand. "You don't have to forget him." "I won't," he said. "But I don't want to keep living like I'm still stuck in that room. This one's ours now, not his." We looked around. Same walls, same floor, but it didn't feel haunted anymore. Felt like a beginning. Later that evening, Tomo barged into our room with a snack bag in one hand and a notebook in the other. "I knew it," he said, pointing at us accusingly. "Knew what?" Ren asked calmly, biting into an energy bar. "That you two were finally acting like you've been married for 10 years. Took long enough." I blushed. "We're not—" "Oh, please." Tomo snorted. "I've seen less couple energy in rom-coms. Anyway, I need to borrow your bed." Ren and I both stared. "For what?" Ren said flatly. "To take a nap. This is the coziest bed on the whole floor." Ren gestured. The floor is right there." "I hate both of you," Tomo said and left dramatically. As soon as the door closed, I laughed. "Should we start charging for naps?" "Only if we use the money to buy better pillows," Ren said. "Your side still feels like sandpaper." I shoved him with a grin. He caught my hand mid-push and didn't let go. "I'm glad you moved in," he said suddenly. Voice soft. "I didn't have much choice, remember? Room mix-up." "Still," he said. "Maybe the universe got it right for once." I looked down at our hands. Maybe it did. That night we lay in bed, our bed, listening to the rain again. But this time it didn't sound sad. It sounded steady. Safe. Ren pulled me close, chin resting on my head. "You're still not sleeping," he murmured. "I'm thinking. Dangerous." "Shut up." He laughed quietly, then whispered. "Now can I tell you something without you making it a whole thing?" "Promise nothing." "I like waking up next to you." My heart did this quiet flip, like it had been waiting to hear that exact thing. "I like falling asleep next to you," I said. "So, I guess we're even." He pressed a kiss to the top of my head. Quick, almost shy. And just like that, the ghost of the past, the pain, the fear, it all felt a little further away. We weren't perfect. We still had things to figure out. But we were here, together. And for the first time in a long time, that was more than enough. One evening, after River was asleep, the four of us sat in the living room, just existing together. "Do you ever think about that day?" Ren asked. "When you moved in?" "Every day," I said honestly. "It changed everything." "I'm sorry," he said. "Our for the 1,000th time. So sorry." "I know," I said. "And I've forgiven you. Really forgiven you." Ren looked at me. "Sometimes I still can't believe you stayed." "Sometimes I can't either," I admitted. "But I'm glad I did." He pulled me close then. Me too. And in our small room that had become a home, we were finally completely whole. Thank you for being part of this journey. If this story moved you, subscribe, share it. Let others know that healing is possible. that love survives trauma, that sometimes the person you sleep beside is the one who saves you. Comment below about your own journey, your own healing, your own hope. Until next time, remember, you're worthy of love even when you're broken. You're worthy of someone who stays even when it's hard. You're worthy of a home even when you've been lost. Be brave enough to let someone in. Be brave enough to heal. Be brave enough to love again. That's everything. That's all that matters. But let me tell you about the months that followed, about what it really meant to build a life with someone who'd been broken. Because the bonding ceremony was just the beginning, not the end. The first month after we bonded, Ren was different, more protective, more possessive. His alpha instincts were in overdrive now that we were officially mated. He'd growl at anyone who got too close. He'd scent mark me constantly. He'd check on me every hour like I might disappear. "You're hovering," I said one morning, watching him circle me while I made breakfast. "I'm being attentive," he corrected. "You're being ridiculous." He pulled me against him, burying his face in my neck. "You're mine now. Officially. Let me enjoy it." I melted. Every single time. But it wasn't all perfect. Bonding didn't erase his trauma. Didn't make the nightmares stop. Didn't fix the guilt he carried. Some nights he'd wake up gasping, reaching for me, making sure I was real. "I'm here," I'd whisper. "I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Promise." And slowly, night by night, the nightmares came less frequently. School changed too. Everyone knew we were bonded now. The bite marks on our necks made it obvious. Some people congratulated us, others whispered. A few Omegas glared at me like I'd stolen something precious. But Ren didn't care. He'd wrap an arm around me in the hallways, kiss my forehead in the cafeteria, make it very clear I was his. "You're shameless," I muttered after he'd kissed me in front of half the school. "You love it," he said, smirking. I did. God, I really did. Tomo started calling us the married couple. Said we were disgusting. Said he was going to move out if we kept being so happy. "You don't even live here," Ren pointed out. "Doesn't matter, you two are contaminating the whole floor with your domestic bliss." We just laughed. But beneath the happiness, there were still hard days. Days when Ren would go quiet, when he'd stare at nothing, when the weight of the past would settle on his shoulders again. On those days I learned not to push, just to be there, to hold his hand, to remind him he wasn't alone. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked one night, voice small. "Bonding with someone like me?" I looked at him, at my alpha, my mate, my everything. "Never," I said. "Not even for a second." He pulled me closer. "Good. Because you're stuck with me. I wouldn't want it any other way." Finding out I was pregnant was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. I'd been feeling off for weeks. Tired, nauseous, my Omega instincts going haywire. Ren noticed before I did. "You need to see a healer," he said, alpha worry bleeding through. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You can barely keep food down." I went, mostly to stop him from worrying. The healer examined me, ran tests, then smiled. "Congratulations, you're pregnant." The world stopped. "What?" "About 6 weeks along. Bonded Omegas conceive easily, especially with strong alpha mates." I stared at her, at the test results, at the proof that there was a life growing inside me. I was going to be a parent. Telling Ren was the hardest part, not because I thought he'd react badly, but because I didn't know how he'd feel about bringing a child into a world that had hurt him so much. I found him in our room, sitting at the desk, working on assignments. "Ren?" He looked up, saw my expression, was on his feet immediately. "What's wrong? Are you okay? Did something happen?" "I'm pregnant." He froze, completely still, like time had stopped. "You're pregnant. 6 weeks. His eyes went to my stomach, then back to my face, then to my stomach again. "We're having a baby?" I nodded, and then he was holding me, lifting me off the ground, spinning me around while laughing and crying at the same time. "We're having a baby," he whispered against my hair. "A baby. You're happy?" He pulled back to look at me, eyes wet. "Happy doesn't even cover it. I don't even have words." He dropped to his knees. It pressed his face against my still flat stomach. "Hi," he whispered to the baby. "I'm your dad, and I'm going to protect you and love you and never let anything hurt you." I ran my fingers through his hair, tears streaming down my face. "We're going to be okay," I said. He looked up at me. "Yeah, we are. The pregnancy was hard. Omega bodies are designed for it, but that doesn't make it easy. I was sick for the first trimester, exhausted for the second, emotional for all of it. Ren was there through everything, holding my hair while I threw up, bringing me food at 3 a.m., rubbing my feet when they swelled. He built a nest for me, a proper Omega nest with soft blankets and his shirts and everything that smelled like safety. I spent hours in it, feeling the baby move, feeling the bond pulse with love. "You're beautiful," Ren would say, watching me from the doorway. "I'm huge." "You're beautiful," he repeated, "and perfect, and carrying our child." I'd cry. Every time. Damn pregnancy hormones. At 7 months, we found out we were having a boy. Ren cried for an hour, just held me and cried and whispered promises to our son. "We're naming him Kai," he said that night. I looked at him. "Are you sure?" "Yes, not as a replacement, but as a memory, as hope for the future." I kissed him. Kai it is. The birth was the hardest thing I'd ever done. 20 hours of labor, pain that felt endless, fear that something would go wrong. But Ren was there, holding my hand, talking me through it, being my anchor. And then suddenly there he was, our son, tiny and perfect and screaming at the top of his lungs. They placed him on my chest and I just stared at this miracle, this life we'd created. Ren was crying again, touching Kai's tiny fingers, his tiny toes, his tiny everything. "He's perfect," Ren whispered. "He's absolutely perfect." "He looks like you," I said. "He has your eyes. He has your stubbornness." Ren laughed, kissed my forehead. "I love you, both of you, so much. We love you too." And in that moment, in that hospital room, we were finally, completely whole. The first weeks with Kai were chaos, beautiful, exhausting chaos. He cried at night, needed to be fed constantly, barely slept. Ren and I took turns. One would sleep while the other stayed up with Kai. Then we'd switch. "I don't know how people do this," I mumbled one morning, half dead from exhaustion. "With love and caffeine," Ren said, equally exhausted. But we figured it out. Slowly. Together. Ren was a natural. He'd hold Kai for hours, sing to him, talk to him about everything and nothing. "You're going to be amazing," he'd tell our son. "You're going to be loved. You're going to be safe." I'd watch them together and feel my heart expand. This alpha, this broken, beautiful alpha, was the best father I could have imagined. At 6 months, Kai smiled for the first time. Right at Ren. Ren cried. Of course he cried. He smiled at me, he said, voice choked. "Our son smiled at me." "He loves you," I said. "Just like I do." At 1 year, Kai took his first steps, stumbled toward Ren with determination in his eyes. Ren caught him, held him close. "Good job, buddy. I'm so proud of you." And I realized, this was healing. Not the grand dramatic kind, but the quiet, everyday kind. Every smile, every laugh, every moment of love was healing the broken places in both of us. Years passed. Kai grew, started talking, started running, started being a tiny tornado of energy and joy. On his 3rd birthday, he asked about the photo. We'd kept it. The one of Ren and the boy who came before. Put it in a frame on the shelf. "Who's that?" Kai asked, pointing. Ren knelt down beside him. "That's someone I knew a long time ago. Someone who taught me a lot about being brave." "Where is he now?" "He's gone, but he's still here." Ren touched his chest. "In my heart, and in your name." Kai thought about that. "Am I named after him?" "You are." "Was he nice?" "Very nice." "Okay." And just like that, Kai was off to play again. Ren looked at me. "Think I handled that okay?" "Perfectly," I said. 5 years after we bonded, we stood in our room. No longer a dorm room, now an apartment, a real home, photos on the walls, toys on the floor, evidence of the life we'd built. "Do you remember that first night?" Ren asked. "When you moved in? When you used the dorm ghost excuse to make me share your bed?" He grinned. "Hey, it worked. You're ridiculous. You love me. Unfortunately." He pulled me close, kissed me like we were still those 2 scared boys sharing a bed for the first time. "I'm glad you stayed," he whispered. "I'm glad you let me." And in our home, with our son sleeping in the next room, with the bond pulsing strong and sure, we were exactly where we were meant to be. Thank you for staying until the end, for witnessing this journey from broken to whole, from alone to family. If this story touched you, let me know. Share it. Let others know that healing is real, that love survives, that family is worth fighting for. Until next time, remember, your broken pieces can become something beautiful. Your past doesn't define your future. And love, real love, makes all the difference. Be brave. Be hopeful. Be loved. But there's one more part of this story I need to tell you. One more piece that matters. When Kai turned 5, we took him back to the university. Back to that building. Back to where it all started. The dorm had been renovated since we lived there. New paint, new furniture. But room 3B was still there. This is where Papa and I met, Ren told Kai, standing in the hallway. Really? Really? I opened this door and there he was, with a too heavy suitcase and the most nervous Omega scent I'd ever smelled. I elbowed him. You were terrifying. I was charming. You were a disaster. Kai giggled. You're both disasters. We laughed, because he was right. We stood there for a while, looking at the door, remembering. Do you want to go in? I asked Ren quietly. He thought about it, then shook his head. No, I don't need to. That room was the beginning, but it's not where we are anymore. He took my hand, took Kai's hand. We're here now, and here is good. We walked away from that dorm room, from the past, from the ghosts, and we walked toward our future, together, as a family. That evening after Kai was asleep, Ren and I sat on our couch, his arm around me, my head on his shoulder. Do you ever wonder what would have happened? I asked. If I'd said no? If I'd refused to share your bed? Every day, he admitted. And I'm grateful you didn't. Me too. He kissed the top of my head. You saved me, you know, that first night and every night after. You saved me too. We sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes from years of loving someone, of knowing them completely. Ren? Thank you. For what? For letting me stay, for choosing me, for building this life with me. He turned to look at me, eyes soft. I should be thanking you. For staying. For loving me even when I was broken. For giving me a family. We gave each other a family, I corrected. He smiled. Yeah, we did. And in our home, surrounded by photos and toys and evidence of the life we'd built, we held each other. 2 boys who'd met in a dorm room, who'd shared a bed out of necessity, who'd fallen in love despite the pain. 2 boys who'd become men, become partners, become parents. 2 boys who'd healed together, who'd built something beautiful from broken pieces. That's the real story. Not the dramatic moments, not the confessions or the tears, but the quiet everyday choice to stay, to love, to build, the choice to wake up beside someone and choose them again, and again, and again. That's what love really is, and I'd choose Ren every single time. 10 years after that first night in dorm room 3B, we renewed our bond. Not because we had to, because we wanted to. We stood in our home, Kai watching, friends surrounding us, and we bid each other again, reaffirming what we'd always known. This was forever. The bond pulsed stronger than ever. Love and commitment and unbreakable connection. I love you, Ren whispered. I love you too, I said. Always. And our son cheered, and our friends celebrated, and we held each other, 2 broken people who'd found their way to whole. Thank you for being part of this entire journey, from that first awkward night to this moment of complete love. If you found yourself in this story, if you saw your own pain, your own healing, your own hope, leave a comment. Share your journey. Let others know they're not alone. And remember, healing is possible. Love survives. Family is everything. Be brave enough to share a bed with your broken alpha. Be brave enough to stay when it's hard. Be brave enough to build something beautiful. Because that's the only story worth living. That's everything. That's love. Let me tell you about one more thing. One more perfect moment that sums up everything we built. It was a Tuesday evening. Nothing special, just a regular day. Kai was doing homework at the kitchen table. Ren was cooking dinner. I was folding laundry. Kai looked up. Papa? Yeah, buddy? Do you and Dad still sleep in the same bed? Ren and I exchanged glances, tried not to laugh. We do, I said. Why? My friend says his parents have separate rooms, says it's weird when people share beds. Ren turned from the stove. Well, your dad started sharing a bed before we even knew we loved each other. It's kind of our thing. Kai thought about that. Did you always know you loved each other? No, I admitted. It took time and a lot of mistakes, but we figured it out. How did you know? Kai asked. That Dad was the one? Ren looked at me, eyes soft. Because even when I was at my worst, he stayed. And that's how you know someone loves you. Not because they're there when it's easy, but because they're there when it's hard. Kai nodded seriously. I'm glad you stayed, Papa. Me too, buddy. Me too. That night after Kai was asleep, Ren and I lay in our bed. The same position we'd been in 1,000 times before. His arm around me. My head on his chest. The bond humming peacefully between us. Do you remember what you said? Ren asked quietly. That first night I told you about Kai. I said a lot of things. You said you'd rather hurt beside me than be safe without me. I looked up at him. I meant it. I know you did. And it's still the most beautiful thing anyone's ever said to me. I pressed closer. Good. Because I still mean it. Every day. He kissed my forehead. I'm so glad you moved into my dorm room. Housing screw-up, I reminded him. Best screw-up ever. We fell asleep like that. Entangled together. Safe. Loved. Home. And somewhere in the night, like he'd been doing for years, Ren whispered my name in his sleep. But this time it wasn't out of fear or pain. It was out of love. And I whispered his name back, because we'd finally made it. Through all the darkness. Through all the pain. Through all the broken pieces. We'd made it to the other side. Together. The way it was always meant to be.